Log into Omni as a user with access to the CRM module. So let's log in as a project manager user. Let's go to CRM and let's go to prospects. So in Omni, a prospect is a organization or a person that you're engaging with in order to gain new business from that user, from that person or organization. So let's create a new prospect. Click on the add button here. And let's make the name of the prospect. This is the company that this prospect belongs to. So if Omni is set up as a multi-company installation, there will be a number of companies that will show up here. Account manager is the staff in your organization who is dealing with this company. So let's choose this person, and it's the company's name. The source of the lead, if you've gotten this lead through a referral, etc., the address, etc., is not required, but can be filled in for database purposes. So let's save this. So that creates a new prospect with the code 2619. So let's copy that code. Let's search for it. And this is the prospect that we just created. So let's click on view a prospect. And this is the code 2619. Let's add a contact. A contact is a person in the organization that you're engaging with. So you can add various information related to this contact, including a visiting card, and click on save. So the contact is saved. And that's the contact. A follow-up is a meeting that you have had with a person in this organization. So let's add a follow-up. So this is the date of the follow-up. The follow-up by is your employee who had this follow-up. The mode is how this follow-up was done. And contact is the person in the organization of the prospect with whom you had this follow-up. So that saves the follow-up. We can refresh it here. And this is the follow-up. Schedule schedules a follow-up for a future date. So we can add a new follow-up. So let's say we add it on the 12th of October. So this ensures that the follow-up is there in the calendar of this prospect so that this can be reminded to. So for instance, here we are scheduling a follow-up in the future on the 12th of October by this person who is an employee in this organization via email with this person in the prospects organization. So we can save it, and the follow-up has been scheduled. So let's go to the schedule again, and let's go to the month of October, and this is the follow-up. We can double click it, and this is what the follow-up is. An inquiry is the actual tender or the job that we will be bidding for. So this is the intent of this part of Omni, is essentially to add inquiries for particular prospects. So let's add an inquiry to this prospect. We have to choose a business unit, which is essentially the nature of the job. So let's say it's a civil job, and the accounting center of the job, the currency in which the job will be done, and this is Save it, and that's the job. So the job code is C31. And let's go to inquiries, and this is C31. So this inquiry is now recorded in the system. The next step is to add the requirements for this particular job that we are going to bid for. So that process is similar to the process of adding BOQs for an execution job. So here this is a tender job for which we will add BOQs. So in order to add BOQs, go to projects, then jobs. Then let's search for C31 because that's the job we just created. And that's this one. Let's click on this to go to the job dashboard. And let's click on BOQ to add a BOQ. So there are no BOQs for this job as yet. So let's click on add BOQ. Let's put the BOQ code and this is how we'll do it. So let's say the BOQ is in terms of a lump sum. It's a lump sum BOQ. It's a progressive rate, and we can put the rate as 45,000, and this is 1, and click on save. So that adds a BOQ. Let's add one more BOQ. Again, let's choose lump sum for this, and this is a lump sum BOQ. Invoice type is original, and let's say this is 50,000 and this is 1. Let's click on save, and we have these two BOQs set up. Now let's add some scopes to this particular job so that we can plan this work. So the step that we're doing right now is we're trying to plan the resources and the schedule that is required for us to deliver these two BOQs. So let's go to scopes. There are a couple of ways to add scopes. We could have taken the BOQs and directly converted them into scopes by clicking on this button, or we could have copied over the scopes from the civil WBS and linked them together. That's another option. The other option is that we can add the packages directly manually. So in this case, we'll take the manual route. So let's add the packages. And these scopes automatically got added. So for now, we'll just worry about these particular scopes. Let's not worry about anything else. Now let's go and link this BOQ to the scopes that we have. So we have this linked. Let's add another scope here. And we've added scopes, we've linked scopes to these BOQs. So the next step, now that we have planned the breakdown of these two BOQs, that these are the activities necessary. Now obviously in this particular case we've only added one activity each, but in reality we'd add a set of activities to complete this BOQ. For now we'll just worry about this particular one. So we have planned the work, we've broken down the work Now the next stage is that we would like to set up an estimate for delivering these scopes. So the estimate is a resource estimate. So we're going to plan what material, what machines, what labor is necessary. So let's go to estimates. There are no estimates as yet, so we'll add a new estimate. This is not a budget estimate, so let's click on save. Let's add resources to this particular scope. Let's add some material. So we'll add cement. Say 50 bags, and let's see if we have purchase rates. No, we don't. So let's add 450 rupees a bag. Let's add another material, steel pipes. So we've added these two items. Let's also add a machine. We'll need it for, let's say, 4 months at 20,000 rupees a month. Let's also add labor. So let's say we'll need carpenters for 3 months at 6,000 rupees a month. So we've added that these resources are necessary. Let's say these two material, this machine and this labor, and this is the total estimated cost of this particular scope. So let's go back. So let's add some resources to the second scope that we added. So let's click on plus here. And let's look for door closers. And we'll add 20 of them at 1,000 rupees. Let's also add some machinery. Let's add a concrete mixer. Let's say we'll need it for 50 days at 1,000 rupees per day. And let's add a staff expert for 1 day at 600 rupees a day. So we've added resources to this particular scope, water analysis. So let's go back. And we've got the estimated costs for the scope, and these have been added to that for the BOQ. So that basically creates our estimate. So the next step is to request approval for this estimate. However, before we can go ahead and request approval for this estimate, we need to set up a particular user with the rights to approve estimates for this job. So because we just created this job C31, we did not set up any user with the approval authority in this job. So we'd have to do that first before we go and request an approval for this estimate. So let's log out of this job of Omni and log in as a portal admin user. And let's go to setup. Let's go to users. These are the users currently set up in Omni. So let's just say that the portal admin user here, we will give him the rights to approve estimates for this job. So let's click on edit here. Let's go to job permissions, click on add. In the drop down, let's look for the job that we wanted. So that's this one, C31. In the role, let's choose estimate approval and click on save. So we have now given to this particular user portal admin the role of approving estimates for the job C31. So let's log out. So let's log in as a project manager user. Go to projects jobs. Let's look for C31. Go to the job dashboard and go to estimates. So this is the estimate that we just created. So let's go to the edit screen. And this is the total cost. Let's request approval for this. So a notification went out to the portal admin user, whom we have marked as the user who has the role or the rights to approve an estimate for this job. So let's log out and log back in as the portal admin user. And let's go to the approvals tab. So this is the estimate we just created and we've requested that it be approved. We can preview this. So this is the estimate, and these are for the two BOQs 1 and 2, and this is the values. So let's approve this. Let's log out and log back in as a project manager user. And let's go back to projects jobs. And let's search for C31. Go to the job dashboard and go to estimates. And we can see that it's been approved. So the next stage now is to take this estimate and create a quotation from this estimate. A quotation or a tender essentially takes an estimated cost and adds a markup percentage to get a price to be charged to the prospective customer. So let's mark this estimate as ready for quote. So we've marked this as ready for quotation, RFQ. So when we do that, it is now available in the CRM module to create a tender or a quotation from this estimate. So let's go to CRM, let's go to prospects, and let's look for our prospect. That's prospect 2. Let's click on the dashboard here. Let's go to inquiries, and this is the job C31, the inquiry that was received from this prospect. Let's view it, and we have not added a quotation yet, so let's click on add quote, and this will show the estimates that have been approved and marked as ready for quote. Let's choose that and click on save. So this creates a quote. We can put in a tender code. These are various fields associated with tenders. None of these are actually required. We can just put this. Click on save. So this was the estimated cost that came out from the estimate. We can see the details of that down here. So these are the two BOQs. The labor for BOQ 1 is 600 rupees, material 20,000, equipment 50,000, and the total is 70,600. Similarly, that for Gatehouse and Garden is this much, and its total is 122,500, and the total is 122. So the total of this adds up to 193,100. So let's add a markup of 20% to it. So the cost plus markup becomes this. We can put maybe 5,000 rupees as other charges that we want to claim for tender fees, etc., and click on save. So this is the total cost, 236720. This will be the final offer price, and for each BOQ this is the rate for that BOQ. So this was the estimated cost, and this is the rate that we will charge the customer for. So let's go back to the list of estimates, and this is the quotation that we just created, Q/C31/7. We can preview that quotation. We can click here. So this is the quotation. So this is the BOQ, this is the rate that we're charging, and this is the total. So we can take this, print it in PDF, Excel, whatever, or Word, and we can format it according to our use and send it to the customer. So let's go back here, and let's now mark this as submitted to customer. So we'll click on this button. So when we do this, essentially the status of this quotation will change from draft state to submitted. So let's click on that, and it becomes submitted. So submitted means that we have given this to the customer, and the customer is now considering it. Now let's say the customer says, okay, this is fine, I'll accept this quotation. So the customer says yes, that it is approved. So let's click on this link here, and it is now approved. So this quotation has now been approved by the customer. So we can again preview that. And this is the rate for the BOQ, and it's been approved. So now the idea is that we can take these rates and copy them over to the price to be charged for the BOQ. So we can click on this link. So this will take the approved BOQ rate in this quote and set it to the BOQ rate for this job C31. It will save it as the rate of the BOQs there. So let's click on that, and yes, and it's been done. So now we have, what we have done is we have copied over these prices that were there in the approved quotation as the rate that we will set for the BOQ. So let's verify that. Let's go to projects, let's go to jobs, step C31, let's go to the job dashboard, and let's go to BOQs. So this is now the price. We can preview it. 150,171.932. This came from the quotation. Let's go to the other BOQ as well. And it's 86548.06. So this also came from the quotation. The next step now is that we need to create a customer and a contract for this prospect so that we would be ready to execute this job and start work on it. We can start billing and start acquiring resources, issue purchase orders, work orders, etc., and start the work of actually executing this job. So let's go to CRM. Let's go to prospects again. So we're going to convert the prospect to a customer. And this is the prospect we created. So in order to convert the prospect to a customer, there has to be a button here for conversion. However, that's disabled currently for this particular prospect. And the reason that's the case is because we don't have an address. So for a customer, an address is a required field. However, for a prospect, it isn't. So let's go and edit the prospect and add an address to it. And let's put this. And let's click on save. And the prospect has been updated. So let's search for it again. And that's the address. So since we have the address now, we can click on this button, which will convert the prospect to a customer. So let's click on it. And it got converted. So the status of the prospect now is converted. And we can verify that by going to the CRM and going to customers. And we have test prospect 2. This is the new customer we just created. So the next step now is to create a contract from this customer. Since we have already got an accepted quotation for this customer, we'll now create a contract. So let's go to CRM. Let's click on contracts. Let's click on add contract. And the customer is test prospect 2. The order date can be today's date, 29th, and the order value can be 7 lakh rupees. Click on save. And this creates the contract. So now what we need to do is we need to link a job to this contract. So let's go to jobs. C31 is the job that we want to link. Let's choose that and click on the button labeled link jobs. Let's go again to jobs. And this job is now linked to this particular contract. Now the last step before we conclude the pre-tender process of Omni is to convert this job from a tender job to an execution job. So now that it's linked, we can click on this value here, this button here, which will convert a tender job to an execution job. So let's click on that. Yes. And from a tender job, this job has now become an execution job. So now we're ready to start executing this job, issuing purchase orders, issuing work orders, etc. And if we want to bill for this job, the last stage before we do that is to mark all the BOQs to the contracted state. So let's do that as well. Let's click on this button, which will mark all the BOQs to the contracted state. And now all the BOQs got to the contracted state.